I'm going to just go through in Vine Charcoal. So I'm going to use Vine Charcoal and a kneaded eraser. And I'm just going to draw a sphere. So I'm just going to lay a sphere down. That's just from the shoulder. Maybe I would consider that my gesture. And I'm going to decide like where's my light coming from. I already have kind of a lighter edge here. I'm going to have my light coming this direction. So here's something worth noting. If my light source was right where this triangle was, the shadow that it would throw would be enormous. Or if it's a lot farther away, let's say it's like sunlight or something, then it's going to be a lot more, those rays come in a lot more parallel. So what does my shadow look like? Maybe I want to move this up just a little bit like that so I get the whole shadow on the page. And a shadow of a sphere, that's an ellipse. It doesn't have to be super clear right now. We can clear that up later. So that's telling me already where my light source is. It's kind of like triangulating me back to some distant light source. With this kind of a shadow, my light's kind of coming from straight up above. If it was behind the object, then it would kind of blob out this way. If it was in front of the object, it would blob out backwards. It'd go back. This flat one here, kind of like light from straight above. I was happy with the sphere I had. I'm just doing this to sort of mimic what I might do in a gesture session. Just getting some activity on the page, just getting something happening on the page. All right, so now I'll bring that sphere back. You can see I really didn't lose it when I did that. It just kind of, if I call it ghosting, it just kind of ghosted. So I'm taking my cues from where my light source is hitting. So somewhere up there is my light source. It's hitting the object here and creating that part of the shadow, and hitting it here and creating this part of the shadow. I'm taking my cues from that to decide where the edge of my shadow is going to be. I've got my shadow edge. I'm going to fill my shadows in with one passive value. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say I'm going to do all my dark stuff. So I've got quite a lot of empty space down here. I don't really care because I'm just doing a sphere exercise. I can just leave that blank. But it's a good opportunity to add like the front of a table or something. Maybe I want to move it up a little bit. That'll add a sense of space out the front. I want my lines to become borders instead of lines. For this drawing, when you see a ball or something, when you see things in real life, you don't see lines everywhere unless there are really thin shadows or really thin textures or something like that. Instead, you see edges, you see borders. So the edge of this ball is going to be made up of the silhouette of it against the background and the silhouette of it against the foreground. And it's just that change from light to shadow that makes it show up. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm working. Eliminating lines is going to be part of my goal as I go forward. All right now I'm just going to smooth this Vine Charcoal. This is the nice thing about Vine, is it gives you these smooth halftones really fast. And there's no reference for this. It's just drawing a circle and playing with those light and shadow effects on the circle. And I would encourage you to do this. I really would encourage you to do this because it'll make you feel powerful. And practice it. Maybe your first one doesn't go exactly the way you wanted it to, or maybe it's got some weirdnesses or whatever. But drawing a sphere just from your mind, using the light and shadow principles and giving yourself the freedom to do it, is your first step on exerting your understanding of light and shadow on a drawing. I'm going to grab some silhouette so you can see the kind of clarity that you can get. That edge, because I came back with a hard mark and sharpened that edge, it has just gotten really crisp here in a way that it's not anywhere else. That's the kind of clarity you can get. You don't need a line when you have a border like that. That's going to do all the communicating you need. And I'm going to ease it just a little bit, actually. Let's speed this up for the sake of time. This whole time I'm keeping in mind that handout, or at least the principles from that handout. What should my light do? What should my halftone do? Where's my highlight? and I'm building up, it's usually better to save the highlight, save the darkest darks till towards the end. So you'll see that I don't quite do the highlight until I've got most everything else dealt with. There it is. And I erase it out, chase it back, erase it out, blur it. I want it to be integrated with the rest of the sphere. Okay, and here's just a little optional thing. If I wanted to create a sense of the surface here, I can adjust the shadow that's being cast onto the table. So there I've got it arcing up in the back, arcing up in the bottom to create a sense of a wrinkle. A line there for cast shadow from some fabric. Some more bumps in the back here. If I'm careful with those, they very quickly, that cast shadow creates a sense of the surface that it's sitting on. And that's kind of the power of a cast shadow, is that it can really effectively describe the surface it's sitting on. So here I am with the compressed charcoal. This is no longer vine charcoal, this is compressed charcoal, and it's giving me this dark, dark, dark black. And it's important for me to work it into the drawing. If I just sit there and scrape it on and don't work it into the drawing, then it's not going to be nearly as effective